I've been trying to make a dedicated Inkbrush video for a while now, and you'd think that as an Inkbrush 1 trick since 1 BC, before COVID, I'd have a lot to say about my favourite weapon, and well, I mean I do. I have this nagging feeling that I have something I want to say about this weapon, but no matter how hard I try to put it into words, it never felt right. But that's it, isn't it? This weapon doesn't feel right anymore. So, let's start at the beginning. Back in 2019, when I first picked up Inkbrush Nouveau, it was the strongest it had basically ever been. It was defining the meta. Well, the people willing to play it were defining the meta. It got to the point where the finals of an area cup had a team with 2 Inkbrush Nouveaus and a tent. It was a strong weapon. And strong weapons tend to be ones that have strong identities. Weapons that double or triple down onto certain ideas. Take the Decalculator for example. It has really good mid-range poke, mid-range damage combos, a bomb for extra poke, a bomb it can combo with, a really big close range AoE one-shot, a dash to get in range with its AoE one-shot. And to top that all off, it has a massive shield where it can control space using its big AoE again. It doubles down into that. Or take Snipe Writer. It has a strong niche as a backline and weapon with a lot of long-range pressure, as well as long-range paint, as well as really strong core output, as well as having really strong damage combos, as well as having great mobility, as well as... So back then, what specialties did Inkbrush have that somehow made it one of the strongest weapons in the game? Well, Inkbrush specialised in 2 things. First and most iconically was Inkbrush's mobility. Thanks to a buff it got in Splatoon 2's patch 1.4, Inkbrush was able to completely ignore enemy ink when rolling around. It was able to ignore the main method teams would use to deny your ability to move into certain parts of the map. This on its own is a fundamentally broken mechanic that subverts one of the main rules of this game. The only reason this is balanced is because Inkbrush has an otherwise pretty underwhelming main weapon, and this is still true. Even today. Its second specialty, but by no means any less important, was its survivability. This was mainly in the form of its special at the time, Baller, which gave it a massive shield against every form of damage. On top of that, this Baller was 160 points for special, alongside some of the highest paint per second in the game, meaning it was getting a lot of those. Even when it got nerfed to 180p, it still got a lot of Ballers. Inkbrush's survivability was a lot better than most of the weapons, because it benefited a lot more from external sources of survivability than your average weapon might. Ink Armor was a really strong special and one of the best specials to pair with Brush, since it gave a flat 30 extra HP, or you can think of it as the ability to survive 1 extra shot. Because Brush was essentially a dodge tank, it would stay alive by not getting hit. Brush benefited a lot more from armor, since surviving 1 extra shot would translate into multiple seconds worth of extra time alive. There were also some teammates like Tenterbrella which Inkbrush would synergize with really well, since its shield could be used to keep you alive, but it could also allow you to safely access different parts of the map without having to burn things like your Baller or your armor charge. It also definitely helped Brush that Tent was at one of its peaks back in 2019 too. In the right comps, Brush would feel impossible to kill. And in case that wasn't good enough, both its mobility and its survivability would play into each other, in a way. Good mobility translates into better survivability, as your opponents find it harder to hit you when you're at their max range, as well as allowing you to go between pieces of cover quicker. And better survivability means that you get to move around a lot more, since the best way of denying you movement, trying to kill you, is more difficult. While there were changes to Baller and Brush that led to it being not as dominant in the meta as it was before, it still managed to be a top tier weapon until the end of Splatoon 2. So if Inkbrush was good in Splatoon 2, what changed in Splatoon 3 to make it feel off? Well, the main thing that changed, and the main thing I want to focus on, is its kits. The kits changing was kind of inevitable, since a new game means new specials, and it's not like the devs are going to make every other kit a reprint, right? The first kit that Inkbrush got was Splat Bomb plus Killer Whale, and this kit got a lot of praise for being a pretty good kit for Brush on paper, and I mean, yeah, it's basically impossible for this to be a bad kit. The new maps meant that one of the only strategies a lot of short-range weapons like Brush had was to use their bombs to build up their special, and then use said special to brute force their way in, and Brush's kit did exactly that. On top of that, it covered a lot of the weaknesses of Nouveau back in Splatoon 2. The bomb gave it an option to affect the game even when it wasn't in range, and Whale gave an ability to create space for itself. Like, sure, Inkbrush was good at making space for its team, but it always struggled at making that space for itself. This kit gave it tools to do exactly that. But this kit does not feel right to me, because sure, this kit is well rounded and allows Brush to handle any scenario at least modestly well. This kit lacks identity. What is this kit for? Why would I want to pick this kit in particular? Having a bomb or whale doesn't enhance Brush's gameplay. You don't want a well-rounded kit, you want a weapon with a strong identity that gives you a reason to choose it over the 130 different kits in this game. Like, sure, this kit gives Brush the option of sitting back and spamming bombs, but Brush is by no means a weapon that's good at doing that. And if that's why you're picking this kit, why not pick a different weapon like a Junior or Splash? But if you're picking this kit for the Brush, well, its kit isn't actually going to help you. You'd rather pick the Nouveau kit, which doubles down into the brush aspect of the weapon. And credit where it's due, the Nouveau kit does do a better job than the vanilla kit. Ink mines are a lot more synergistic since brush has the mobility to put mines in really annoying spots, and can make it very difficult to dislodge. Hammer is also a special that wants to be close to the enemy team, so that you can whack them with it, and well, brush has the mobility to get that close. Since brush likes to stick to the sides of the map and in the flanks, hammer has a lot of synergy since brush is always in a place that will naturally make up for hammer's weaknesses. So if this kit has a lot of internal synergy, why am I talking about it in this video? Because this kit also doesn't feel right. Part of this is generally because hammer struggles to function correctly. It still struggles to hit things directly in front of it, and still struggles to keep you alive, even from the front. There are a lot of situations where it would make sense to pop hammer in theory, but doing so would actually be a bad idea, since it likely won't do what it's supposed to do. Given that, it makes you play less of a role of rat and more of a role of assassin, more of a glass cannon that tries to benefit from Brush's mobility but does nothing to interact with Brush's innate survivability, reduced though it may be. Thanks to a certain buff Hammer got in patch 9.3, this actually kind of got worse in a sense. I mean, Hammer itself got better, but the identity issue got worse. Now, a larger portion of Hammer's power is in its throw. Now there is less emphasis on being close to the people to whack them, and a larger emphasis on positioning in a good spot to throw the hammer from. Sure, Inkbrush is probably the best at getting to these spots, but again, it's another aspect that is taken away from Brush's identity. There is an identity issue here. And I want to make it very clear that Brush is still a good weapon. It isn't a top tier like it was back in 2019, but it's still a very high tier weapon. In the right environment, it can go toe to toe with some of the best weapons in the game, and get incredibly close to winning some of the highest level events that we have. The issue is just that in the transition between Splatoon 2 and Splatoon 3, part of Inkbrush's identity got eroded. It used to be that it had good mobility and good survivability. But nowadays, I mean sure, it still has that mobility, little has changed in that regard, it's just that now it struggles with survivability, since those tools, Baller and armor, have been taken away. Its identity is more narrow. While strong weapons have strong identities, the best weapons have multiple strong identities. No matter what maps or modes you find yourself on, you will find different situations that value different aspects of a weapon. Trying to fight for a zone in overtime is going to value ways you can maximize your paint on the zone. This can be with high paint weapons, like Brush, but it can also value weapons with strong kill threat, who can deny the enemy team's ability to output paint. But when trying to lock the enemy team out of the zone, you may find that total paint output is less valuable, and the ability to deny strong positions or get into rather disruptive positions yourself is more valuable. Splat zones isn't just about paint, it's about a lot of things, and so having a weapon that can do multiple things very well will be more valuable than a weapon that excels at just one thing. The narrowing of Inkbrush's identity to just mobility means that scenarios where Brush will excel is more limited, which is made worse by the environment of Splatoon 3. A lot of Splatoon 3's maps are really restrictive. They lack a lot of flank routes and cover for Brush to dance around. It's an environment that does not reward, and sometimes it even punishes mobility. In an environment like that, you need something to fall back on, and Brush no longer has that. In Splatoon 2, one-clicking Inkbrush felt fine, since I always had strong and effective tools to handle whatever was thrown at me, even in environments that did not favour some aspects of the weapon. But in Splatoon 3, one-clicking Brush doesn't feel as good anymore. There are a lot of map and mode combinations where all of Brush's agency is ripped away, where continuing to force myself to one-trick this weapon is now a limitation, an artificial limitation that I've placed onto myself. Most of what could be done about this is at the mercy of whatever the next balance patch or content update holds, if we even get one of those again. The simplest change would be to have Hammer protect you from the front, so that Brush can finally use it to keep itself alive, but I don't see that happening. They could also give it a third kit. I don't think the sub matters too much, but torpedo please. As for its special, Kraken is the obvious good special for Brush. Nothing gives you better survivability than the special that literally makes you invincible. I've also seen some people suggest Crab, though I'm not a big fan. And another option I personally believe in is giving it Big Bubbler, but literally just give it a special that it can use to keep itself alive. But there is one thing the competitive community can do to make this game more accessible for Brushes. Never allow Tower Control or Rainmaker to be played in a tournament ever again. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.